Hello, and welcome to the Continue Watching live chat. I am here with Matt. Matt, say hello.
Hello.
And Matt, before we get started, I would like to file a complaint.
You want to file a complaint right away?
I would
It's like 4 seconds in.
I would like to file a complaint. So me and my wife are going back and watching older seasons of The Amazing Race. Have you watched this show before?
The older seasons, yes, I have.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't start watching this show. I've always been a fan of Survivor. Shout out to Spectro. And I've watched Survivor from like literally from the first season, but we never watched The Amazing Race, and so we started watching The Amazing Race like relatively recently, like it's up through like season 30 something now, and we started watching right, it's a lot of seasons, and we started watching it was like in the low 30s. I don't know if it was 30 or 31 or 32 or whatever, but since during the COVID stuff, they haven't been filming any new seasons of basically anything. So we decided to go back and watch some of the older seasons of The Amazing Race because they're all except for like the most recent seasons, they're all on Amazon Prime.
Oh,
So
okay.
like starting with episode 1 going all the way up through like probably season 30 or 32 or something, they're all on there. So we skipped like the very early seasons, and so we started with like season 7 or something. And we're up to like season 16, 15, 16, something like that by now. All the seasons are like 10 episodes long. They're not very
Are they
long.
that short?
Yeah, they're not very long at all.
Hmm.
Um,
It felt more epic and long when or as I think back to watching the early seasons.
yeah,
But I think I only watched the first seven, so maybe the early seasons were longer.
could be. I'm not sure. But at any rate, so we're going through and we're watching. My complaint is that we're going through and watching these older seasons, and the thumbnails that Amazon Prime has for each episode have spoilers in every damn thumbnail.
I hate
Because
that.
you can look and you can see what the thumbnail is. You can't avoid it, first of all. You can't avoid it. You can see like the thumbnail of the last episode, and it has the people that are in the last episode. So you can't not be spoiled. It's literally impossible to watch these episodes on Amazon Prime without being spoiled by the dumb thumbnails.
Yeah, it's like the people who design these user interfaces don't understand that people haven't seen all of these things. You would think that they would just either do like a generic title logo or a place like Amazing Race, right? You just like show a picture of like the amazing country that they're in. There's no need to put people in there, or just show Phil every week. And you
Yeah.
can just see Phil slowly age
Right.
over 33 seasons or however many.
That's a great idea. But to your point, literally anything would be better. Literally anything. They could put pictures of Jeff Probst on there. It would be confusing as hell, but it would still be better than putting legitimate spoilers in the thumbnail of every episode. It drives me crazy, but what am I going to do? All I can do is complain to you.
Well, I will take your official complaint, and seeing as I don't work for Amazon, I will turn it into an angry email and send it to Jeff Probst. I'm
Well,
sure he'll care.
yeah, do what you can, please. So
Yeah.
let's start off with some news. We have three news stories we're going to talk about because one of them is probably going to run long. So the first one we should mention is that Amazon Prime on its mobile apps have added a clip sharing feature. Did you see this?
I saw it, but only when you pointed it out to me earlier today. I did not know that they were doing this. It's kind of brilliant.
Yeah, so it basically, I can't help but think they were inspired by a couple of podcast apps, oddly enough. Like there's a podcast app called Overcast and one called Castro, and they both at about the same time added a feature where you can record like up to 30 or 45-second snippets of the podcast you're listening to and then upload it to you can like upload it to whatever socials or you can download it to your phone and then share it like straight off your phone. And it was a really great idea to help like clips and uh, 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 clips of podcasts go viral. That was the whole idea. Like it was really hard to share audio clips online, and so they developed this really easy way to do it. And it's like so simple and stupid, but it works really well. And I can't help but think that the people over at Amazon saw this and were like, we should do this, but for like video. And they just
This
kind
is
of,
actually a major feature of TikTok. This is how TikTok things tend to go viral.
yeah,
Is you can
right.
post something and other people pull it. So yeah, no, I think they're seeing that these video responses or having people have the ability to respond to clips
Yeah.
um, can make content kind of multiply.
Yeah, well, they're not do like on TikTok you have like the duets, right? You can like duet with the clip or whatever, and they're not quite doing that, but that might be interesting too, like to have an ability to like share the
Yeah,
clip that you're watching with you reacting to it, or I mean, just basically copying what they do on what they do TikToks.
and I'm a
Yeah.
TikTok watcher, so there's also stitches where like you start off with
Oh,
somebody else's
right.
content and then you hop on.
And then you like
So
interrupt, yeah.
you interrupt it, yeah. But yeah, for Amazon shows, particularly like right now, right? There's just so much content to do anything that allows people to share your content and get more eyeballs seems really smart.
I agree. It seems really smart, and I will bet that within 6 months, at the longest, you'll see Netflix and other HBO and other people. I think will probably copy this. I think they have to.
They do, though it'll probably make content creators a little bit more cautious because a lot of what stirs up the most like views on TikTok is when somebody says something stupid or inappropriate and people are disagreeing. So you're going to see probably a lot of um, content that's more anger motivated. And so we think like, oh, you're going to share something cool and respond to it, but it'll probably be, like, can you believe that Amazon thought that this was acceptable to put in their
Oh,
TV show?
yeah.
So I'm wondering if they'll start trying to curate the content so they'll have like suggested clips or something to try to limit what gets shared in the manner that it gets shared.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Like, I don't know. Like, my mind totally just went to like the best case scenario where people are like, check out this awesome clip from Invincible. Isn't this an auction, awesome action scene or whatever? But on the flip side, you could see people posting clips of the boys and being like, look at this awful, violent, nihilistic content on Amazon. Why are we giving them so much money?
Yeah, because we have no other option.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's move on, and we have to talk about Disney Plus Day.
Yes, amen.
So I don't know that we need to literally go down the list and name everything, but are there a few things that maybe you want to highlight?
Are there a few things that I want to highlight? Well, can we just start off by saying that I think generally the consensus is it was a little bit of a disappointment. I
Okay.
feel like people had higher expectations that Disney did not quite meet. And I'll say this as like I'm a dedicated Disney fan. I paid for the 3 years of Disney Plus like upfront. I follow the news pretty closely, and maybe that's part of the issue. It's like a lot of what was being announced, I kind of already knew about. So there did just seem to be a little like it was a little lackluster. I kind of expected more from Disney, and I know there's also a lot of frustration with um, people trying to access content that they felt like they should have had access to for free and vice versa. So it just seemed a little sloppy on Disney's part. But I like the idea of it, and I'm hopeful that next year it's a little bit better. But let's start there, and then I guess we can start going through some of the things that we learned and some of the things that were posted that day.
Well, sure. I'll start. So
Okay.
I can tell you that I'm going to start on a weird one
Okay.
because I work in education, as I think you know. Not everyone probably knows, but I work in the field of education, and I work with students that are like middle school aged, so like aged 11, 12, 13 years old students. And there is nothing more not literally nothing, but it is impossible to underestimate how popular the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books are. Like they are
Mm,
still very popular. Like these kids in that age group, in that demographic, like 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, really gravitate towards those books. Like they read them over and over and over. Like it's literally impossible to overestimate how big of a deal those books are to that kids in those age groups. And so I can see, they announced on Disney Plus Day that do the they're doing the animated ones, right? So they're doing the Diary of a Wimpy Kid Roderick Rules, which is the second book um, that's coming out. And so I think that for someone like me or you, or people that are really into Marvel and people that are really into Star Wars and really were focused on that kind of stuff, like don't sleep on the Wimpy Kid franchise because it's insanely popular. It's still insanely popular.
mm. Yeah, no, I definitely am. Like, I work with teenagers too. Though for a long time I was working with mostly high schoolers, and I only recently have I started working with middle school students and those younger. So I've really missed Diary of a Wimpy Kid, but I've discovered kind of this last year that some of these like titles that I'm not as familiar with, like the non-Marvel, the non-Star Wars, there are some real gems that Disney has developed in there that are based off of books, oftentimes that I just missed being older than kids today, and
Yeah.
that are really good and worth digging into. So, have you seen any of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid like film
Sure.
TV projects?
Well, I mean, I've seen the live action ones. I haven't watched any of the animated ones, but I might. I definitely will once the animated ones get to where they haven't made live action ones. Like they made live action ones of some of the earlier books, and now it seems like Disney's just going back and starting with book one and doing animated versions of all of them. So when it
Mm,
gets to the point where I haven't seen the live action stuff, I'll probably watch the animated stuff. I mean, there's not enough time. Like I don't have enough time to literally watch everything, even stuff that actually looks pretty good. I just have to, you know, be choosy about it, I guess.
yeah, which is such a change from when we were kids. Even having cable TV growing up, right? Like there is so many days where I was just scrolling the channels and just settling like, okay, this QVC infomercial is like the best thing that's on right now.
Right, yeah.
And today we're like, oh my gosh, there's so much good content that's being created. We just can't possibly
Yeah, it's
keep up with
nuts.
it all.
Yeah.
It is.
So I'll add a few more things here, and then I'll let you kind of take over because I think you were more excited about the whole Disney Plus day than I was. I'm excited to see they're doing another season of High School Musical, the musical, the series. I like that. I actually thought that season two was a stronger season than season one. I don't know if that's a controversial opinion, but I think the show is getting better as it goes. I'm looking forward to the Zootopia. Are they calling it Zootopia Plus? Is that the name of the
Yeah.
show they're calling that? I'm looking forward to that. Like I think that's a strong franchise. I'm really looking forward to the Tiana show because Princess and the Frog is like in my top three Disney movies of all time. Really am a big fan. And aside from that, I am only looking forward to the Obi-Wan. Oh, that's not true. The Obi-Wan show is probably the show I'm looking forward to the most. But I am also excited for the Spider-Man freshman year animated show.
Okay.
Assuming that the Spider-Man, yeah, caveat, assuming the Spider-Man freshman year animated show is going to focus more on Peter Parker and less on Spider-Man, which I know
Mm,
doesn't make sense because it's called Spider-Man freshman year. It's not called Peter Parker freshman year. But like the aspect of those of that um, of the aspect of Spider-Man that I relate to that I find the most compelling is not when he's Spider-Man and fighting crime. It's when he's Peter Parker and he's doing normal like kid high school sort of stuff, navigating through that rather than just being another superhero.
yeah. No, I think that's always been one of the strengths of Spider-Man is particularly in the versions of his story where he's kind of brilliant and crafty, and he's coming up with his superpowers rather than like what is it, the Tobey Maguire version, right? He gets bit,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is a little bit different. So yeah, no, seeing a scrappy teen, you know, rise up and to become this hero, that's even a more compelling story to see like brains and rather than superpowers.
Yeah, agree.
Okay, so you hit one of the Marvels and you hit Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that like I'm here for Obi-Wan. I'm ready for it. I'm a little bit frustrated that it's already kind of been announced to be a limited series and you're only getting the one season supposedly.
Oh, really?
Um,
I missed that.
yeah, yeah. So basically, I think Obi-Wan Ian McGregor he's too big of a deal, so he's not committed beyond a single year, which is I think why we're getting to see Darth Vader in one of the other series as well, just as they're continuing to flesh out that universe. So I'm hopeful that Star Wars TV shows are just going to continue to kind of be the bright spot in the franchise in this era. I was okay with the sequel trilogy, but I think The Mandalorian really hit it out of the park, and I'm pretty hopeful for the Boba Fett series and all of that. So I like what the TV side of Lucasfilms has been up to lately. So that's exciting for me. Some of the other things that I'm like really excited about is so Spider-Man freshman year definitely caught my attention. But for me, like, and I already knew about it. Like I knew it had to be, and I kind of knew that it was coming. But the Agatha announcement with Catherine Hahn, I just think she was such a standout character from WandaVision. So super excited that she's getting her own series and that we get to explore her more. Definitely watching that series. I just had a hunger.
Is that going to be animated or is that live action? Do you know?
No, I believe it's live action.
Okay.
So it's here. Um, yeah, and it's actually the same executive producer and head writer is back. So I believe it's continuing that world, and not switching over to the animated world.
Like, don't you think that's going to be a prequel though? Because at the end of WandaVision, right, she's like trapped in the. I mean, they could always write her out. Like they could always like make her escape somehow. But at the end of, unless I don't remember correctly, which is entirely possible, but at the end of WandaVision, isn't she get left in that like town that Scarlet Witch created?
Yeah, so she's definitely incapacitated. Let's put it that way. And she is kind of left in that town, but she's not dead. Wanda doesn't kill her. So there is always the chance that, she's unleashed again, shall we say. And it seems like this series has to be going back as a prequel, but if it's in the Marvel universe, you know that this backstory is somehow going to lead to her, being unleashed again on the world and hopefully playing havoc in the MCU in a bigger way in the future. I thought Catherine Hahn was brilliant and her portrayal was so fun. So I'm excited and hopeful. I think for me, like the villains in the TV series, I've always kind of felt like I wanted more of them. Like I wanted more Agatha, and I wanted more of, oh gosh, I'm blanking on the character's name, but in Winter Soldier and Falcon, like there just seemed to be more there to explore, and there wasn't enough, which is a great feeling to like be watching a show and wanting like I want more and I want more of that villain even. That's exciting to me. There was a lot of Marvel that was announced or kind of like highlighted on Disney Plus Day, which was fun, but also I think a little bit frustrating. Like we got our first glimpse of She-Hulk, and I just kind of like shrugged my shoulders, like I'm going to watch it because I'm going to watch everything that Marvel does for the time being, particularly if it's a TV series. But the thing that really caught my attention, I don't know if you saw it, was the trailer for Hawkeye. Did you catch that trailer?
No, I haven't watched it.
Okay.
Well, I'm not big. Like you know, that I'm not like the biggest Marvel fan at this point. So I was. Someone asked me. I think Spectro asked me the other day whether I was going to watch Hawkeye or not, and I was like, I haven't really thought about it, but I think that I'll probably not watch it right away unless people say it's good. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah,
I mean, I felt like I was burned by like I didn't. Well, whatever. I'm not gonna turn this into my soapbox about not liking Marvel content lately, but like I felt like WandaVision was okay. I felt like it got worse as it went. I didn't think that Loki was very good, and that Falcon and Winter Soldier I didn't even finish. And What If I did not watch, and um,
Okay.
yeah, and so I guess now we're at Hawkeye, and I'm hoping Hawkeye's good because I actually like the character because it's more of a he doesn't have superpowers, like he's more of a human character, kind
Yep.
of like Black Widow. I thought the Black Widow movie was good, so there's that. But I've kind of lumped Black Widow and Hawkeye together in that they're not superheroes. They don't have superpowers. They're not aliens or anything like that. So I think that makes him a little bit more relatable. So maybe if Hawkeye can pick up on those themes, then that would catch my interest.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. It's interesting that you're struggling with the TV shows where I think I've been struggling with the films. For me, it's like after Endgame, the movies have all just kind of been a little bit of a letdown for me, and the TV shows have been what's exciting. And I think for a lot of people who are into Marvel, they like the big blow up action scenes, which is what those movies often are. It's the spectacle. But I'm loving the character exploration that we're getting in the TV series. So with Hawkeye, I think we're going to get to dig into like Clint Barton a little bit more, and it'll be interesting to see how he's processing, right? Like life after Black Widow's big sacrifice in Endgame, but then also to have like Kate Bishop like on the scene and to have her challenge him. I think it's going to be really interesting. Now, I'm a Marvel Cinematic Universe fan. Like, I'm not a Marvel fan, so like I haven't read the comics. So I'm sure that there are people who have read the comics and can kind of already outline like 12 different versions of this TV show, and they'll probably be way more right than I'll be. But um, the the TV shows are definitely interesting to me. And one of the things that caught my attention in the trailer was it wasn't so much a trailer as much as it was like the first like I don't know couple minutes of a TV show. And so you see one of the initial like big action scenes, and it's a car chase, and just the way they filmed it, like and it was really slick, and they had like clearly the camera in the back seat of this car, and the camera angle just kind of smoothly like rotated around to allow you to see the action, but you very much felt like you were in the back seat of this car as the two were driving off fighting bad guys, and things were blowing up and all that. And so that just excited me to see a little bit of that like spectacle in these TV shows, maybe in a way that's been a little bit more artistic and a little bit more creatively. So that's exciting to me. So I'm looking forward to Hawkeye. I'm ready for that. Definitely looking forward to Agatha. Um, but at the same time, I am starting to notice there's like a lot of Marvel TV shows coming out. And I think one of the weaknesses in phase four for Marvel is they're just introducing so many new characters. And there's still so many living characters from phase one, two, and three that the universe is just starting to feel way too big. There's too much, and they need to start killing off some of the supers before they replace them. So I am getting a little bit of Marvel fatigue, and it's hard to keep up. And I feel terrible, but it's like I watched the Eternals, and I was like, wait, is that guy from? Oh wait, no, he's a new character. But I was
Oh yeah,
sure that he was in another character or in another movie, just because there's so many of them right now. But it is what it is, and they're making billions and billions of dollars. So who am I to critique them?
yeah. Anything else from Disney Plus Day that stood out to you aside from the Marvel stuff, or is that pretty much what
Well,
you were
as
drawn
a
to?
child of the '80s, don't we have to talk about Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers?
I mean, I'm down. I mean, yeah,
Like,
I'll watch it.
yeah, no, I'm gonna watch it. So like, I was all about DuckTales getting the reboot. I liked how they tweaked it, and like, for me, I was only frustrated that they didn't bring back the entire like Disney afternoon lineup. So now that we're
Yeah,
getting a Chip and
yeah,
Dale Rescue Rangers, I'm excited, and John Mulaney and Adam Sandberg, like, awesome, let's do it. So
yeah. I should have
that's
mentioned
exciting
that.
for
Yeah,
me.
I should have mentioned that when I was saying the things that caught my eye because that one did catch my eye. I'm a huge fan of DuckTales. Like the originals were like I totally watched all those when I was that age, and Like the recent ones are like an A plus. Like they're really really good. And if Chip and Dale can be like three quarters as good as the DuckTales show was, then that'll be great.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Spectro is pointing out that in the back of the promo photo for the Chip and Dale, you can see Darkwing Duck script, which I'm actually looking at that photo right now, and it is there.
Great.
So it is kind of nice to think that we're going to be getting more revisiting kind of our childhood,
Yeah.
uh, and seeing those classics kind of reimagined and reintroduced to our kids.
Why wouldn't they? Like it just
Yeah.
I don't know why they would pass that up.
Okay, so one last thing on Disney Plus Day,
All right.
because I think my wife would have to divorce me if I didn't mention it, is we got Olaf Presents. So, like, one of the standout moments from Frozen 2 is it actually happened as an accident. So, if you saw, like, the making of Frozen 2 piece, they got to the situation, right, where the cast of Frozen, right, Anna and Elsa and Olaf and all of them, they're in, like, this new community and they have to explain, basically, the first movie, and so it just was kind of boring. And so the solution that the creators, the screenwriters, and the animators came up with was to have Olaf very quickly and kind of comedically retell the story of Frozen One as only Olaf could, and then using his, rearranging his body and pulling things from their world, like leaves or whatever, to kind of tell the story in, I don't know, 30 seconds, a minute. And it was like a standout thing, and one of the best moments of Frozen 2. And then
Might
Josh
have
Gad
been.
actually.
Sorry to interrupt, but it might have been the
Oh,
only good moment of Frozen 2. But carry on.
no, I don't disagree with you. I think it was pretty much the only good moment from Frozen 2. But like sometime during the pandemic, I saw that Josh Gad did this thing. He did like a fundraiser where it's like, hey, if you guys donate, I forget how much money, then I'll do that. But I think with Star Wars. And so I think he did the entire like Star Wars trivia as Olaf Presents. And so now here we go, and Disney has created four shorts, so they'll tell you that it's five. And so they pulled out that moment from Frozen 2, and then they added four additional ones, which are pretty good. I don't think they're necessarily as good as the Frozen like summary, but we get Moana, we get Aladdin, we get Tangled, and blanking on the other one we get. Oh, Little Mermaid. And it's fun, it's cute. And the thing that I really like that Disney did, because, I'm a father, and my kids, just will watch them all in a row, is that they gave us the option to watch all the shorts in a row. So if you scroll down all the way to the bottom of Olaf Presents, you can watch all five shorts like one after another,
So
rather than
what you're saying is Disney Plus invented a playlist.
they created a playlist, which is huge. But it's not just a playlist because you got to skip the 5 minutes of credits at the end of all those
Oh
shorts.
God, come
So it's like
on.
you'll look at Disney Plus and you'll be like, oh, there's a 7 minute short. No, it's a 2 minute short with 5 minutes of credits where they have to tell you like all the creators from every like weird country, including the Netherlands. Sorry, Mark. So this was just nice to just get to watch like the content and then not have to fast forward or like skip through all of the credits. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
appreciate that they're doing that, and particularly as they're leaning more and more on shorts, like the Zootopia piece is going to be a bunch of shorts. I hope they keep that because that's just user friendly.
yeah, for sure. So we should probably move on, so we don't go too long.
Yep.
One last piece of news that we were asked to talk about, and I can talk about this. I don't. This shouldn't take too long. We were asked to talk about Hulu, and there's a story. There was a story that came out that Comcast doesn't want to sell their share of Hulu to Disney. Now, I think the thing in so I read that story and I was like, that doesn't sound right. So I did a little research on my own, and basically, as best I can tell, is that Comcast has already agreed to sell. They own 33% of Hulu. Okay, so Comcast has already agreed to sell that 33% stake to Disney sometime in 2024. There's not like an actual date, like a firm date. It's just supposed to happen at some point in 2024. And they've already set a price for it. They set a minimum price. So according to Variety, the minimum price for this is $27.5 billion, which is a lot of money. So that, I mean, that's a valuation of Hulu at just north of $75 billion. So to say that Comcast doesn't want to sell their 33% stake to Disney might be like factually correct that they don't want to do it, but they've already agreed to do it. They can't back out. Like my understanding is like this is a signed deal that Comcast can't just back out of. Like they have already agreed to sell their share to Disney at some point in 2024 for a minimum of $27.5 billion. So there's that. Like I don't think there's any like tap dancing around that. Now, I think what we what we should also touch on is that a lot of people want to wonder about Hulu and Disney Plus in the United States. Like in other countries, Hulu doesn't exist. And so there's they have like Star, right? Star's built in or included in Disney Plus and many other countries, and most, not all, but a lot of the content that's on Hulu here is on Star in those other countries. And again, Star is included in Disney Plus. So you buy Disney Plus, you also get Star. Star also includes a bunch of the content from Hulu. So that's in contrast to how it is in the United States, where we have Disney Plus and we have a separate service, Hulu. Those, they aren't combined. In almost every other country, those two services are combined, just under a different name. They don't use the Hulu name overseas, except for like in Japan, I think.
Yeah, and it's a pretty different service over there, is my
Yeah,
understanding.
yeah. So some people, like, it's a popular topic of conversation that goes something like this: why, or when, or not even why, but when will Disney Plus just absorb Hulu and make it all in one app? So the thinking goes that the people that want to have this discussion, their logic goes something like this: at some point, Hulu will be 100% owned by Disney, so that'll be sometime in 2024. And then at that point, Disney owns 100% of Hulu, and so why wouldn't Disney just fold Hulu into Disney Plus and have it all in the same service? And I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. It's probably a question worth asking, but I don't see that happening. And the reason I don't see that happening is that at this point today, Hulu in the United States has 43 million paying subscribers. There's no it makes doesn't make any kind of business sense to take 43 million paying subscribers and basically do anything with that. Like make it more difficult or confusing for them, because they make a lot. I mean, that's something like $43 million a month that Disney's pulling in off Hulu. Assuming 43 million, paying roughly $10. So they're making $43 million a month off Hulu, and I don't really see them. I don't really see them rocking that boat. I mean, if you're going to take all that Hulu content and you're going to roll it into Disney Plus, you can't keep it the same price.
No.
Um, you don't really want to raise. You don't want to raise Disney Plus price too much. Especially all at once. That's bad business. Bad optics for one thing, and it would just be bad in reality. Like they would lose subscribers. You could have Disney Plus, and you could make Hulu an add-on, like where you could pay your whatever $10 a month or whatever for Disney Plus, and then for an extra $5 or $7, you could have the Hulu add-on if they wanted to continue to call it Hulu. So that's a route they could go down. I don't think that they want to do that. I don't think there has been really any streaming service in the United States that's really done that well, where they have like a tiered system where you have your main content, and then you can pay X amount of dollars to add on a bunch of other content. I mean,
Well, Hulu does that a little bit.
they do it with the live stuff like Hulu with live TV, but I feel like that's a different.
Well, you
That's
can also get HBO and Showtime through
yeah,
Hulu.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so that's a good like I should have been more clear about that. Like with the distinction of it being like I think people understand that. Like they understand HBO. Like they understand
Yeah,
Showtime. They understand like how that would add on. But at any rate, I feel like I'm getting a little bit into the weeds here. But um, bottom line, I just don't see. I don't understand what the incentive for Disney would be to take Hulu and to like fold it into Disney Plus somehow. I guess you could make an argument that when excuse me, when Comcast is no longer associated with Hulu, that a lot of that content will leave. And so Hulu will lose a bunch of content, and so it will be less attractive to people to subscribe. And so to kind of keep people from leaving, they could combine the two services or whatever. But I feel like by the time we get to 2024, Hulu would likely have enough content on their own, like between all of the ABC stuff, between all of like like all of the Fox stuff, between all the FX stuff, between all of those other like more like adult properties that Disney owns, that you could still make a pretty good product with that without having to tear up Hulu and then include it in the Disney Plus.
yeah,
I feel like it's just something people that like there's a certain subset of people that would like that because it takes Hulu and it takes Disney Plus and it puts it all in one spot. And people like to think that that might come at a discount. But if you follow the Disney Corporation closely, they never will pass up an opportunity to make more money. Like especially if you follow like Disney parks on the Disney parks and resorts side, they will nickel and dime you at every possible opportunity. And I just don't, Disney's not just going to say like, we're feeling generous, and so we're just going to take all of our Hulu content and we're going to throw it into Disney Plus, and we're not going to, for no added cost or anything like that. Like that's not how Disney operates. Like they are very much aware of dollars and cents, and they're not gonna leave money on the table. Definitely not gonna leave money on the table. Like just think back to how they negotiated with the movie theaters over the Star Wars films and the Marvel films, and how they, nickled and dimed all the theater owners over their cut and whatever. I won't rehash that.
yeah.
But anyway, to wrap this up, we don't need to go too much longer on this. But uh, as far as Comcast not selling to Hulu, I don't think that's a possibility because that's a contract that's been signed. And as far as Hulu, at some point post Comcast rolling Hulu into Disney Plus in the United States, like I just don't see that happening. Hulu has too many subscribers. They make too much money off of it. It's too different. It's like it's too much. It's too adult compared to like all the stuff on the Disney Plus side. So I don't see it happening. I don't know why. Like Hulu is one of the most recognizable name brands in streaming. So I don't know why you walk away from something like that either. So
Yeah,
that's
no,
yeah.
I don't see them giving it up. One of the things, though, is, of course, like content is king, and so with them losing the Comcast content, I don't know that Hulu will really lose all that much content as long as they're continuing to, license like the NBC stations the way they continue to license the Fox TV stations. They'll still have those shows available, which is going to be huge. Um, the one platform that we did just see kind of merge a bunch of smaller streamers together is Paramount Plus. So, of course, there was CBS All Access, and then BET and Nickelodeon, and all these had their own streaming services, and they couldn't keep up as small dogs in the fight. So Paramount Plus was born out of a merger of all of those, and so far that hasn't been super successful. And I think Disney's kind of killing the content across their platforms, and then they do the bundle. So there's the ESPN bundle with Hulu and Disney Plus. So they're already motivating people to stay kind of in their ecosystem. So as long as I agree, as long as Hulu is producing content, It's too different of a platform. And I hate their UI. So I hope maybe when Comcast is out of the picture, they'll take some of the user interface from Disney Plus and port it over. That would be, I think, an improvement. But yeah, Hulu's here to stay would be my guess.
I agree. Let's move on to the portion where we talk about what we have been watching ourselves lately. We'll talk a little bit about that. So I'll start off if you don't mind.
Yep, go for it.
So I have been watching a bunch of stuff, and one of the things I've been watching is Foundation. That's on Apple TV Plus. Um, Everyone probably knows a little bit about the show. It's a big sci-fi epic show. 10 episodes, 9 of which have been released. They're each about an hour long. The show is pretty amazing. At least if nothing else visually, like it looks very expensive. Like every episode looks like a blockbuster, like AAA film on the screen. Like the special effects, the amount of special effects, like the volume of special effects, the quality of the special effects is there. I name a TV show that's done it better. Like I don't know that you can. Like it's A plus, top notch. Of course, that doesn't make a good TV show. Like if it look just because it looks pretty doesn't make it mean it's good. Fortunately, it's actually a good story too. Good, well acted, well directed. The story is good. Like there was one episode early on that I felt like was not handled very well. Like there was like a lot of jumping around through the timeline, and I didn't feel like it was super clear or as clear as it could have been. But other than that, like it's really really good. In these past couple of episodes, they've really put their foot on the pedal, and things are really happening quickly, and things of like actual consequence are happening like in every and like often in like each episode. So it's been really really good. I don't know if you've had a chance to check out anything on Apple TV
No.
Plus, but for not to digress, but Apple TV Plus, like the quality of those shows, just overall on the service is like really remarkable. Like it's very very good. Like even the stuff that I don't like, still I can still admit like this is like really high quality. If nothing else, but the ratio of like hits to misses on there is very high. Like it's I don't know. It's probably my favorite streaming service at this point. Like almost everything on there that comes out is like I watch and I enjoy. It's really good.
I'm gonna
Speaking,
have to spend more attention to Apple TV because we've binge watched Ted Lasso, but
yeah,
that's pretty much it. And part of it is, I have a kid, so I'm constantly going to the children's section first. There's some good stuff in there, but nothing that's really blown me away.
yeah. Well,
Um,
Foundation is very good. The morning show I think is very good. Servant was very good. Mythic Quest was very good. Trying was very good. Um, and I'll mention another one that just came out this week. It's called The Shrink Next Door. It has Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd and what's her name? It's the actress that plays Harkness.
Catherine Hahn.
Catherine Hahn. She's in that as well. And the first 3 episodes came out this week, and then they'll do one of the things I appreciate about Apple TV Plus is they do the like one episode a week format. Usually,
Mm,
like when a new show comes out, like a brand new season one, they'll put out like 2 or 3 episodes that first week to kind of let
yeah.
you kind of get in more deeply, and then after that, it's one episode a week, which I appreciate. I know some people don't like that or whatever, but I feel like it's a nice pacing. Like it's a way to pace myself to watch an episode, like kind of digest it, think about it, discuss it, and then next week, watch the new episode. But The Shrink Next Door came out, 3 episodes, came out Friday, and it's very, very good. It's kind of a dark comedy that probably leans more into a drama than dark comedy. I don't know. The tone of it is kind of hard to pin down exactly, but it's very good. And the thing that I'll mention about it is that the three main characters are played by, like I said, Paul Rudd, Catherine Hahn, and Will Ferrell, which are all three actors like best known for comedy, right? But
Mm.
this show is not a comedy in that way. Like I guess you could say it's a dark comedy, but like even if you allow that, it still tilts more towards drama in my opinion. And I just felt like it was a really interesting choice to cast like three actors in the main roles that are best known for comedy in a show that's not really a comedy. That said, like they do it really well. Like I have no complaints about the acting on the show or the quality of the acting or anything like that. They're all they're all doing a really really great job. Like I wouldn't change the casting at all, but I do think it's like noteworthy that the main cast of the show are like all people best known for comedy, and this is not really like, this is not Saturday Night Live. Like this is something much different.
Yeah, we often don't give comedic actors like the credit that they deserve. Like Will Ferrell, like he's clearly brilliant. He's had a really great career. But some of my favorite stuff of his, which he doesn't get to do all that often, is when he kind of takes a more serious role or leans into a dark comedy role. I'm trying to think of the movie where his whole life's being narrated. And there's some like really profound moments in there as he's like responding to this like voiceover actress and or narrator and trying to process his life. That's kind of brilliant. And then just thinking of like the Robin Williams, like here he is, a total clown. Like I love watching Robin Williams, on late night talk shows and just watching how he just takes over the show and he's a comedic, you know, storm just that commands your attention. But then when you see him in like his dark comedies, one of my favorite is it Photo Booth or 24 Hour Photo? I forget what the name of it
One
is
one hour
exactly.
photo, 1 hour
One
photo.
Hour Photo.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
great
he
movie.
is so creepy in that,
Yeah,
and it's not
100%.
funny at all, and it's brilliant. And so yeah, no, when I see comedic actors in drama pieces or particularly in dark comedies, that really catches my attention. So
You should
I
check it out
saw
then.
I saw this and I kind of dismissed it, just assuming it was another like Will Ferrell comedy piece. But now knowing that there's something else to it, yeah, I'm absolutely going to check it out. You have piqued my interest for
Yeah,
sure.
I think you'd enjoy it. So, real quickly, a couple of the other things I've been watching. Been watching the new season of Survivor, season 41. We're about halfway, a little bit more than halfway through the season, and I don't know, man. Like Survivor's like the show that I've watched every season from the very beginning. I'll never stop watching it. Um, it's a pretty good season. Like if you are into Survivor, you'll enjoy it. Um, but we'll leave it at that. I've been watching the morning show, another Apple TV Plus show. I've been watching that. It's this Friday will be the last episode of season 2. So we've had 9 episodes, and this season's been a little uneven. They went back during they stopped filming for COVID, and when they went back, they rewrote a lot of the season to incorporate COVID into the storyline and to kind of like incorporate like the Me Too movement a little bit more deeply into the storyline. I mean, the first season like definitely has like that theme in like that's a major plot point in the first season. But I think on season 2 they tried to broaden that a little bit or go a little bit deeper. I'm not sure how to categorize it exactly or how to talk about it exactly, but I think some of it, most of it hits. I think some of it misses. Like I think some of it's a little clumsy and not that interesting. But for the most part, it's good. Like if you watched the first season and enjoyed it, you'll like season 2. I thought that in season 1, Steve Carell is one of the main like characters in season 1, and I thought his acting in season 1 was terrible. And his acting in season 2 is a little bit better. I don't know why. Maybe the writing is a little bit better. I'm not sure, but his performance in season 1 really did not give me good vibes. Like it was not. It was very bad. Uh, that said, I think he won an Emmy for it or was nominated for an Emmy for it. So I must be seeing something that no one else is seeing. But the morning show season two, it's almost done with season. It's almost over. Like this week will be the finale, and I would recommend it. Although I think there are some rough edges to season two that they could have. I don't know. They could have done a better job with that. You mentioned Made. That's a new Netflix series. It's a 10 episode limited series. So there seems to be no plans to continue on with the show. I've only watched the first episode, and it was very good, but it's very dark. It's very unhappy, and like you have to be in the right mindset. Like you have to be in the right frame of mind to watch it and just know what you're getting into. Like when you turn it on, like it's not lighthearted. Like nothing about this show is lighthearted. Like it is like hard to watch. So there's that. But it's good. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you'll enjoy it. I'll probably watch the whole thing because I can't get enough of people being sad. Speaking of people being sad, last thing I'll mention is Patriot on Amazon Prime. It's an old show. I mean, it's an older show. They only did 2 seasons of it. The second season probably came out 4 or 5 years ago, so it's by no means a new series. But if you have not seen Patriot, I'm begging you to go and watch Patriot. Like at least watch the first episode because it is absolutely brilliant. It is, in my book, it's the best TV show, like one of the best TV shows of the past 10 years. Like it's up there with The Wire. It's up there with Better Call Saul. It's up there with Breaking Bad. It's up there with all those like great kind of like peak TV drama series. Like it's just the way I don't know. I could go on and on and on. I could literally go on and on about it and how
Okay,
smart,
so
yeah, like how smartly written it is, how well directed it is, how well written it is. Like it's just there's so many like memorable lines and so many memorable plot points. It's really like the gift that keeps giving. I'm rewatching it for the third time, and every time I watch this, one of the episodes for the third time, I pick up on stuff that I missed the first time around. I gain a better appreciation for things that maybe I glossed over the first 2 times or whatever. And like when there's moments coming up that I know they're coming up, I'm like anticipating them happening, anticipating the scene or whatever. Like I really, really look forward to it. Like it's just one of my absolute favorites.
okay, so it only got 2 seasons. Did it have a satisfying conclusion? Because one of the things that I'm hating
Um,
about the streamers is, you'll watch an entire season, you'll be like dedicated to it, but because they tend to film and then release, it's if they get canceled, there's no getting canceled, and then the creators have an opportunity to tie the story up and finish it. So you just end up with all these cliffhangers that kill you. So I don't want to like love the show as much as you love the show and have the ending not be satisfying.
So the ending of the show, the ending of season two, without I won't give anything away. It's satisfying to me. Like it's probably not going to be satisfying to everyone because they did want to leave the door opened at least somewhat for season three, that obviously
Okay,
never came. But like I'm perfectly happy with it. Like it fits the tone of the show. It fits the style of the show. It's not going to wrap everything up 100%, but like
that's
like
fine.
almost everything gets wrapped up. Like it's not like it doesn't leave any major plot lines hanging. So, and I think that's probably the best you can ask for really these days when you have so many shows that they're renewed year to year, and you just never know. Like I feel like a lot of these show creators never know where where they stand, after they make 10 episodes and they throw them out to the wolves, and then all the streamers look and see how many views they get, and then they decide whether or not to greenlight another season. And so it is a tricky balancing act to wrap up the plot points but leave the door open. I think that's really tricky, and I think The Patriot does it better than most. So yeah, I think it wraps up well enough,
Okay.
and that's what I've been watching. So what have you been watching, Matt?
Well, we watched Olaf Presents yesterday, all
Right,
like
right.
10 minutes of it. So that was huge for my 3-year-old. And he, of course, dictates a lot of the TV. But my wife and I have been able to watch a little TV for adults. So the Great British Baking Show, we've been watching that,
I'm so glad you
catching up with.
mentioned that. Yeah, so that is one of my all-time favorite shows. And
Yeah,
yeah, and I really, going back to what I said before about Apple TV Plus and how they release one episode a week, I really dig how this is one of very few shows on Netflix that they release on a weekly schedule, and I really appreciate it.
yeah, I do too. There's something nice about the anticipation and the pacing, and even just being able to stay invested in these characters and these people's lives and their journey, rather than just kind of letting it all happen over four
Yeah,
hours that you barely watched. There is something nice about that kind of event television. So I'm glad that they're doing it. Um, I've been watching the Great British Baking Show, since it was first available to watch in the States, and I've seen the U.S. holiday spinoffs. I like the whole thing. I think it's definitely one of the stronger cooking shows.
yeah.
And I just like how, like, I wasn't a huge fan when they shook up the cast that first time, the presenters and the judges. Uh, but now I'm just kind of rolling with it and, enjoying that it doesn't try to reinvent itself in crazy ways. I know you've been a long time committed fan of Survivor and now The Amazing Race. And I definitely watched those shows like, the first 7 to 10 seasons. But now that Survivor is getting super funky, it's a little frustrating for me as a fan. Sometimes you just want to be able to turn on the TV show and know what you're gonna get. And the Great British Baking Show, for me, is that. They're never going to do an episode where the judges are, I don't know, eating the food while skydiving and judging, what baked good tastes best while falling from 2,000 feet in the air. So it's nice that it stays consistent that way. So maybe a baking show where you have to eat baked goods while skydiving would be a fascinating show.
You might
Um,
you might even say that the Great British Baking Show is the comfort food of your viewing habits.
yes, that might be what it is. That might be what it is. And then the other things that we've been watching, I'm normally a Disney Plus guy, but right now my list is a bunch of Netflix shows. So we just finished watching season 4 of On My Block. Have you seen On My Block?
No, I have not, and I can't believe there's been
Okay,
four seasons of it, and I haven't even peeked at it.
it's worth watching. Season 1 is really great. So season 1, you're kind of introduced to these 4 kids, like right as they're entering the end of junior high, like into high school. They're kind of making a big deal that the girl is looking like a woman, and like the guys are finally like starting to pay attention. And so the story is like 3 guy friends, and the fourth is a girl. So those 4 are kind of the core 4 characters, and they're living in an urban setting, which is kind of nice that it's not taking place in wealthy white middle class suburbia. This is a story that has um, more diversity to it, which is nice. But it's really fun and playful while also dealing with some serious themes. So the casting is part of what just makes this show so brilliant. So out of the 4 kids, there's Jamal, who's just a total character, and I could easily watch 100 seasons of a show about him. I just think he's brilliant. And so anyway, so this show got 4 seasons, and we've been watching it. And this last season, it came out a little while ago. It's not super new, but it's been in the last, I think, 3 or 4 months or so. And so season 4, they did kind of a fast forward thing. Like Grey's Anatomy, I think, kind of did it first, biggest, most recently, where like after Derek Shepherd died, right, they fast forwarded 5 years or whatever. So on my block, they just did a 2 season or a 2 year fast forward, and they picked up the show, and it faltered a little bit for me, but I just love the world. I love the writing. It's so strong. But the bummer is, like with Netflix, um, the casting gets expensive. And so as the casting gets expensive, they kill the shows, which is why most shows only get 2 to 3 seasons on Netflix, because the actors start to negotiate for higher pay. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this, not only because it is something that I've been watching, is Netflix is doing something kind of interesting here. So on my block, they gave it a satisfying conclusion after season four. And season four did kind of feel a little unnecessary. The last episode of season three pretty much wrapped it up, and you could have ended the series there, though season four definitely had its own richness to it. But in the very last scene of season four, they basically introduce you to like a set of four more kids, which there's going to be a spin-off series following. So they get to keep the same world that this show's based off of, but they get to get rid of all these brilliant actors who now cost too much money and introduce us to four new kids in this world. So there's a piece of me that's excited that the world gets to continue and hopefully the writing is as strong. But there is like just this downside to streaming TV that I just keep noticing where this series probably could have had a year for each year of high school, and instead we missed a few years of this show. So that's something that I struggle with. So I don't know if anybody else is watching on the blog, but I definitely recommend it. The writing's strong, the world that they've created is strong, and the characters are great. So
Matt, what is the conceit of the show? Like, what is the main, what is
yeah.
the plot?
So on my blog, so you have
Is it just the
uh,
characters kind of going through their life as young adults?
yeah, it's the
Okay.
characters. It's like a coming of age story, but there's they're raised in a rough neighborhood, and so they're facing poverty, and where they're growing up isn't quite safe, and you're hoping for these characters that they can. There's a piece of you that wants them to rise above like the limitations of their community, but at the same time, you love their community, so you want them to, make their community better. And one of the issues in the community is gangs, and so one of the four characters, his older brother, is kind of the local gang leader of one of the gangs. And so there's this kind of seedy underbelly to their town. And these kids get, kind of season one, they get roped into solving a long time urban legend style mystery. And so season one is really about them trying to the whole idea is that there's money hidden from like a heist gone wrong. They call it the roller world, money. And so season one is about them trying to find that, and then that adventure opens up this whole other world, and it's both like serious but also playful. So it can deal
Sounds
like at times
interesting.
it feels like a dark comedy, but it's funny at the same time.
Is it a
So
half hour episodes or an hour, like
yeah,
roughly?
it's 23 to 38 minutes is the running time, so
Okay. Yeah.
it varies a little bit. But good. Only 38 episodes, but good. So kind of the other one that is, that's kind of a teen drama is its genre. And the other one that I've been watching, which has been difficult for me, is Never Have I Ever. Have you seen Never Have I Ever?
I don't think so.
Okay, so this is a Netflix series. It's created by Mindy Kaling from The Office. And it's kind of based off of
Wait,
her
I
own
have seen
life.
this. Sorry.
You have seen
Yeah,
this.
I've
Okay,
seen
yeah.
season one, and season two came out kind of recently, and I have not watched much of that. I think I watched like the first couple, and then I fell off, not because I didn't like it, but just for time.
Yeah, no, for me it was like both On Your Block and Never Have I Ever. When they released their new seasons, like I was glad there was a new season, but it did take me a while to get ready to like recommit. So Never Have I Ever, of course, like it's following like a Indian American teenage girl. And what's kind of fun about the show is her entire life is narrated by John McEnroe. So like the episodes that are kind of told from her perspective, it's John McEnroe narrating, which is just kind of brilliant because this teenage girl has like a massive anger issue, kind of the same way we know John McEnroe is famous for. And one of the fun things about season two, and they did it a little bit in season one, is on a couple of episodes where another character is kind of the primary eyes that we're seeing the story told through. They switch the narrator. So Andy Samberg is one, and then Gigi Hadid is another. So it's kind of fun that you see like these adult celebrities narrating the lives of these teenage characters, and there's elements of their personality, like their persona, that then gets ported into the teenage characters that we're following. So that show's great for me. And one of the things that I just love about it is the lead character, Devi. She's just so horrendously terrible. Like she's a terrible human being, and it's just so enjoyable to watch her and cringe along with her high school experience. So she's one of those characters that you just, I don't know, want to say that you love to hate her, but you just kind of like love to be like horrified by the things that she does.
Well,
So that
she's a
show's
type.
fun.
Yeah, it's a type of character. It's the type of character that everybody knows. Like when they're in high school, everyone kind of knew someone like that. So I think it's pretty
Yeah,
relatable. Like even if you don't relate, like even if that's not you, you've probably met somebody like that or had a friend that was kind of like that, or it wouldn't be a big stretch to, one of your friends to go from like their personality to her personality.
and maybe that's what's like enjoyable about it is like we don't like to acknowledge kind of our own human ugliness, and Debbie is so self-centered and selfish at times, and so wrapped up in like what she wants. And there's a piece of all of us that does that, and hopefully, we're more mature than her, and don't harm as many people on her life journey as she does.
Yeah.
But it is enjoyable, and the writing is great, and so yeah, definitely recommend that one. So that's something that I've been watching, and then the other thing that I've been watching is Jack Whitehall Travel with My Fathers. Have you seen the show?
I watched the first episode or so. Yeah, like the
Okay.
first one. Yeah, and I liked it. I liked it just fine. It reminded me a little bit of Somebody Feed Phil. Like I don't know, they're not really the same other than they're like kind of travel and eating sort of shows, but the
Yes.
Jack Whitehall one might be a little bit better.
So there's so it's a travel eating show. And the show that it reminded me of was Henry Winkler. What is that show called? So you have Henry Winkler and you have a guy, gosh, the guy who just jumped up in space. What is that show called?
William Shatner?
Um,
Shatner.
William Shatner. Yeah. So
I don't know what it's called. Yeah.
they did, I think, three series. And so it was like on Fox, it was like a pseudo reality show. And it's pretty clear that it's scripted. And Jack Whitehall, Adventures with My Father, is also pretty clearly a little scripted. And kind of the idea of it is that you throw these two characters into, just cross cultural settings. So, season one, they're thrown into Asia, and they're traveling Asia and just acknowledging kind of their own culture shock. And then the fun thing about the Jack Whitehall show that I think makes it a little special is not only do you have the culture shock, but you also just have like this generational shock as Jack Whitehall is traveling with his father, who, clearly a different generation. And so it's kind of fun to see their father-son relationship and see the tensions in their relationship, or their generational relationship, as well as kind of the tensions in their culture as they're, working through these other cultures. So that's all way fun. Season one is Southeast Asia. Season two was Eastern Europe, which I thought was a little bit disappointing. And I think part of that was because it was so in already kind of in their world. It wasn't that big of a stretch. And then they did the American West, and this last season is oh sorry, then they did Australia, and then this last season is actually in the UK because which is where these two actors are from, and partly that's due to COVID. But even then, they kind of get back to that season one, like let's look for the weirdest things in the UK to kind of interact with and laugh. So it's a fun travel documentary, and Jack Whitehall, gosh, I just really enjoy him. And so if you haven't seen the show, but you're familiar with what Disney's been doing lately, he plays the younger brother in Jungle Cruise, where I thought he was kind of a waste in there, but he's a great actor, and just really funny. And his relationship with his father, I think, is pretty funny and compelling as well. So I recommend that. That's kind of what we've been watching over my house. There we go.
Great. Well, let's briefly mention some of the stuff that's upcoming.
Yeah,
So first and foremost, I think, at least in my mind, coming up next weekend is a show called Wheel of Time. Are you familiar at all?
I've heard the name and I can't pull up what it is right now.
Well,
Is this
it's
the original or like, uh, I think I was reading an article that said that this is basically Game of Thrones, but it predates Game of Thrones. So it's like the original Game of Thrones. Is that what this is?
I'm not sure that I would say that. It is a book series. It's a very book series with a lot of books. I'm not sure how many. Maybe Spectro will know exactly how many, but it's like 30 something books. It's a lot. And the author of the books died before he was able to finish, and another author, 15 books. Um, and the author died before he could finish the series, and somebody, another very talented fantasy author, finished it in his absence. And it's just one of those series that is considered like a classic fantasy series. I haven't read it. I know Spectro has read the first three books in the series. I just haven't started it because I just have a lot of books to read. But it's something that, as far as I know, has never been licensed before, like to be turned into a movie or a TV show. And Amazon paid a lot of money. I can't remember exactly how much, but they paid a pretty good amount of money to license it. And so far, they've released a teaser for it, and the first episode comes out Friday.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of people are looking for it. It's a very popular book series, and it's a very I don't know if old is the right word. I don't know when the first book came out, maybe in the 70s or 80s. But it's definitely like amongst people that read fantasy novels and fantasy series, like everybody knows this series. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are anxious to see if they can transition it from a successful and beloved book series into a TV series.
Nice. So looking it up a little bit, it looks like they've been trying, like different studios have tried to turn it into a television or film project since 2000. So this is like almost 22 years in the making. So yeah, I imagine there is a lot of anticipation and excitement for its release. So it'll be interesting to see how it does, particularly, in a post, there is no real giant fantasy franchise out right now. And I know we're expecting Lord of the Rings, the series, to come out pretty soon. It'll be interesting to see how that does with fans and whether there's an audience for it.
Yeah,
Sounds like there must be.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And
So
did you want to talk about the Halo teaser trailer?
yeah, so I remember playing Halo when it first came out, and I never really followed along the storyline. Have you ever played Halo?
I've played Halo 1, 2, and 3, and
Okay,
then I fell off after that, but I couldn't tell you like the actual story. I just couldn't.
right. To me, it was just like the newest version of James Bond GoldenEye. It was just a first person shooter.
Yeah.
So to like hear that they were turning Halo into a series, and that was part of like the initial, I think, Paramount Plus announcement. Is Paramount Plus has to come up with all this content now, and of course they're looking for their big sci-fi franchise. Disney Plus, of course, has Marvel and Star Wars, and Amazon's been doing some creative stuff there too. So like watching this teaser trailer, kind of my initial reaction was, huh? Which is like just like you, like I couldn't tell you what the storyline of the video games were, and I'm just doubting whether there's going to be much of an audience for this. So curious if you've seen Halo. Were you at all excited by that
I
show?
I am personally 100% not interested. I couldn't care less, but I do think there's like a pretty decent audience out there for it. So we'll see. I mean, I don't. I mean, it's a huge franchise. A lot of people are very nostalgic for the early Halo games, and I don't know. I just think there's a big like the brand awareness for Halo is very high, and so I think that there's definitely like a a good sized audience out there for it. I don't know. I think they probably kind of missed their window. Like this is a show that probably should have come out like
A
10
decade
to
ago.
10, yeah, 10 to 15 years ago. So I think they probably missed their biggest opportunity their biggest opportunity to make the biggest impact. and to gain the biggest audience, but I do think there's probably a pretty decent audience out there for it, especially, and it's probably one of those things too that if it's actually good, then that will really pull people. There's probably a lot of people that are kind of waffling, like they're kind of on the fence, like people like me and you, like okay, we know what Halo is, we've played Halo, but we don't have like an investment in Halo, like we don't even remember what the plots are, but if someone said, "Yo, this Halo show is like legit good. You should check it out." Like, I think that would be enough to like maybe push me or you over the edge to actually check it out. So,
Yeah, yeah. I suppose like if the reviews were good, I would give it a shot. I'm just always fascinated like with these, like large franchises where like the budgets for these shows is like $100 million or $1 billion or whatever they are. It's just what a huge gamble on just kind of intellectual property alone. And with all these streaming services having to fight for our $10 a month or whatever, um, we're kind of in a fascinating era where we're just getting all these big production shows right now, and it'll be interesting to see how many of them pan out for people,
yeah,
or no, I guess not for people, but for studios.
right.
So
Absolutely. All right. Well, I
yeah,
think that does it for today.
awesome.
For all of you who were able to join us live, thank you so much for being here. We will do our best to get this recording up on YouTube for the people that weren't able to join us live. But again, for those of you who were able to be here live and to participate in the chat room, we appreciate you, and thanks for hanging out with us. And so
Absolutely.
until next week, I'll say goodbye. Matt, say goodbye.
Goodbye. Good night, all.
All right, everybody. Talk to you next time.